Subject 2 saves the day. We bought this house a couple years ago in Ellington, Florida, and this seller was super motivated, reached out to us on our online advertising, and she was super motivated because her husband or ex-husband was about to get out of jail, and she used to be beaten by him. And so she was trying to move as quick as possible. She got a letter from the jail saying that he was being released. We talked to her about this property, and the only way to really get her out of it, because she just bought the property not so long ago, was to take over the mortgage. So we found out her problem, her real pain point, which is just trying to move as quick as possible. And the way we were able to help her in this situation is by taking over her payments, giving her a little bit of capital, and creating a win-win situation for both of us. This business is about problem solving. You got to find out the problems and come up with the solutions that best fit for the seller and for you. This property was not a home run deal at all for us. Overall, this property, based on the current numbers, when we bought it, it was only like a 5% cash on cash return, but it wasn't that much cash we had to outlay, and we really wanted to help this lady in this situation. It was a good house in a good area, didn't need a lot of repairs, so we did what we could to make it work. And a lot of people want the immediate gratification. They want the best deal ever. Like, everybody's waiting for that home run deal, but a couple base hits here and there will end up getting you to the home base eventually. So with this property, over 2 years time of owning it, our cash flow has increased because the rental market has increased. The mortgage payment roughly has stayed the same. And now, not only do we have a lot of equity in this deal, we have greater cash flow that we typically expect from opportunities we seek. So I'm gonna break down the numbers on what they were when we purchased the property and what they are now. But before we jump into these numbers, I wanna know, are you an action taker? Are you a doer? Because I'm gonna ask you to do something right now. Hit that subscribe button and educate yourself every week with these creative finance deals so we can show you how we structure creative finance deals in a variety of different ways to create great cash flow and long-term wealth. Now let's get into these numbers. All right, so this property, we had a purchase price of $180,000. The seller only needed 10 grand down so she could move as quick as possible and get out of state. So the loan we took over was $170,000. That was subject to. That's the loan we took over. It was like 3.98%. And there was like 28 years left. And on this property, her payment was just under $1,400. We'll make $1,400 PITI, which is the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. We had to pay $5K in closing costs, and then we spent $10K in repairs. So our out-of-pocket is 10, 5, and 10. So it's total of $25,000. And the repairs were like flooring and paint. So we're all in on this deal with $25,000. So how we run our numbers is we're gonna base it on the rental rate, which was $1,800 a month, minus 10% for vacancy and minus 5%. 10% for maintenance, 5% for vacancy. The reason we take off 10% for maintenance and 5% for vacancy is to stress the deal. One, there's always going to be repairs on rental properties. And two, you're going to have a vacancy at some point in time. Now, luckily, we've had the same tenant in there for multiple years, but we still put this factor in there to stress the deal and make sure we'll still cash flow if these things occur. Luckily, we haven't had vacancy, had some maintenance, repairs here and there, but this is how you want to underwrite your deals to make sure you can still cash flow if you have these repair costs and you have these vacancy factors in a real life situation, which you definitely will at some point. We have many rentals, many doors, and this definitely happens. There's been years where I had to replace 8, 10 AC units in a single year. So you want to make sure you put in these numbers into your calculations before you underwrite this deal. So taking off the 180 and the 90, you have 1530 as your balance before debt service. The debt service being $1,400, PITI, which is principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. We were left for $130 a month cash flow. So times 12 is only $1,560. Divide that by 25,000, and that is a 6.24% cash on cash return. So we typically aim for 20% cash on cash return. But this deal, we did have a lot of equity. So this deal was probably worth, at the time, $250K. So the house is worth $250K. It's a 4.2 pool home, good area, and large lot. So we weren't too worried about the cash on cash return. The good thing is it's still cash flowed. With the maintenance factor, with the vacancy factor, we were still cash flowing this property. We know that it takes time. You have to be patient in this business. You can't always just look for the home run deals. You want to be able to pick up properties that at least cash flow, and in the long run, you're going to get principal pay down because the interest rate's very low and the tenant's going to keep paying that mortgage down. You're going to get equity appreciation. appreciation. You take advantage of tax depreciation and then rental growth as well. So now these were the numbers when we purchased it. Now look at the numbers today. So now it rents for $2,100 a month. It's the same tenant in there. The actual market rate is $22,500, but we didn't jump her rent up that much. She's been 18, 19, 2, now 21. And so, we try not to just pump her up to $22,500. We don't want her to move out, have to turn over the unit. So we kept her at $2,100, just raising her $100 a month. And right now our mortgage payment did go up. First, I'm gonna take off the maintenance factor and the vacancy factor. So $210 for maintenance, which is 10%, $105 for vacancy. And then our mortgage payment's now $1,500 a month. That mortgage payment went up because of taxes and insurance. Those rose, so our mortgage payment rose as well. So $2,100 minus these expenses, we are left with $285 a month cash flow. You want to make sure you're consistently raising your rents on your tenants, because if you're not and you're trying to be the nice guy, you're going to end up over a couple years being so below the market rent that it's hard for that person to be able to pay a big jump going from say $1,600 to $2,000. But if you increase it each year as your taxes and insurance increase, then you're being fair. It allows your tenant to budget for small increases. And if they can't afford it at some point, then they can move out. But for sure, you're going to have a lot higher vacancy rate if you're trying to push tenants from $1,600 to $2,000. That's why we buy a lot of houses from mom and pop, tired landlords, because they don't push the rents. They rather have full 100% occupied, never be having tenants turn over. But that's not how you maximize value. You got to maximize the value by pushing rents as much as you can. Now, we could push the rents higher here, but we don't want to push the tenant out. They've been good, they pay, but we want to make sure we're still increasing each year. So the income on this property now, the cash flow is $285 a month times 12 is $34.20. Now on the $25K we initially put out, that cash on cash return is now 13.6% cash on cash. And in reality, this past year, we haven't had any repairs and no vacancy. So if you actually take the real true cash on cash return for us so far in 2022, it would be the $2,100 minus $1,500, which is $600 a month times 12, $7,200 divided by 25K. Our true cash on cash return is 28.8% cash on cash. So in reality, that's what we're really making, because I just looked at our expenses and we had no repairs that have been done in the past year. So this is what we underwrite to. This is how you stress the deal, taking out the maintenance factor, taking out the vacancy, but then you can see the reality is much greater. We always keep those funds in reserves. We don't go out and spend that capital, because eventually something's going to happen. To roll around next month and have to replace an AC unit. So you always want to have those reserves for your passive income properties, because there's always going to be something that happens with one of these properties. So please, until you have a portfolio of properties all producing great passive income, don't go spending this $200-300 a month thinking that you can pay your car bill and your electric bill with these funds. Because if you're not putting away these funds in reserve, you're gonna be coming out of pocket with repair costs. Because something can happen, Murphy's Law, if something bad can happen, it will happen. And so again, with patience on these properties and getting that principal pay down and equity appreciation on this home now that we've owned for a couple years, now our mortgage balance is $150K and our value right now is at $405. So we have over $250K in equity on this property we've owned for a couple years. Now, when you buy these properties, again, it's not about hitting home runs and looking for those home run deals. There's so many people who seek those opportunities out and they never end up buying anything. We buy these properties 2-3 times a month, and we're not trying to hit home runs. We're picking up good deals in good areas, knowing that we'll get appreciation, we'll get the principal pay down, and we'll get cash flow. And if all those things are happening, that's a solid deal for us. And we're going to continue to build a portfolio that we can leverage to buy more properties, refinance, pull money out, buy more assets, reinvest in our own business, reinvest in our own education. And this is what you have to do in business so that make sure you continue to grow. It's not all about the home runs. You got to hit base hits too, doubles, triples. So go out there, make sure you're tuning into these videos, make sure you're putting this into action, and make sure you start making creative offers to your sellers. Go out there and make it happen today.